When one examines successful teams, like a successful football team, what becomes apparent is that most of the work that happens on the field is not about somebody scoring. It's about somebody trying to set somebody else up to score. Now, that sort of magnanimity of spirit, that capacity to be there to set my colleague up to succeed, is actually consistent with an idea of maturity. The intent to set a colleague up to succeed is an attribute of the maturity of the individual. Now, if one considers what that means, you say, well, what is maturity? You've got to consider maturity from the point of view of being a process. It's a process of moving from a state of being fundamentally immature to a state of being fundamentally mature. And if one looks at it from that point of view and you consider it to be a process, it becomes clear that this process called maturation starts at birth and ends at death. And if one looks at that from the point of view of intent, what becomes apparent is that these are the only two truly unconditional moments that you face in your life. At birth, you've not had anything yet, so whatever you're going to get, you will still get. You can't take anything with you when you die. When you die, you give everything unconditionally. Now, somebody could say, but when I die, I don't give anything. Everything gets taken away from me. But that just invokes another question, which is, what's the difference between giving something and having it taken from you? Well, if I give somebody 1,000 rand, or I have 1,000 rand stolen from me, the difference doesn't sit in the 1,000 rand, it sits in my intent. If you say, well, which one of those two experiences can I describe as the successful experience? It's clearly not the one where the 1,000 rand got taken from me, which basically means, by definition, the process of maturation is concerned with the process of the maturation of the intent to give unconditionally. Now, if one sort of examines what that means for the individual, that indicates that in any situation, you're always surrounded by other than you, and you can construct your intent either on what you're trying to get from the world, or you can construct your intent on what you can give to the world. The degree to which you are immature is the degree to which you will fundamentally construct your intent on what you're trying to get. Whereas the degree to which you mature is the degree to which you construct your intent on what you're trying to give. Now, that suggests, for example, that all of the distinctions that we normally have with regard to describing the difference between immature and mature, or being immature and mature, can be accounted for, but with regard to this difference between giving and getting. I mean, if you think about how we normally think about the difference between immature and mature people, for instance, one could say that immature people are poor listeners and mature people, for instance, are good listeners. Because when you're having a conversation with somebody and the person keeps on answering you back before you finish speaking, you don't experience that the person has listened to you. And very often we say that the immature people have this annoying ability not to be able to listen. Now, it suggests that while you're trying to say something to that person, they've got an agenda in their own head. And rather than listening to you, they're listening to their own agenda. Which means for them to listen to you, they have to suspend their agenda to give attention to your agenda. Which means listening requires the person to suspend their agenda for the agenda of the other in the situation that they're in. Listening requires you to suspend your agenda for the other. You can describe that very skill of suspending your agenda for the agenda of the other as giving. Giving is the ability to act, to suspend your agenda for the agenda of the other in the situation that you're in. And this has a knock-on effect, because if I only give attention to my own agenda, because my own agenda sits in my subject, you'll experience me as subjective. Whereas if I suspend my agenda rather to give attention to your agenda, because your agenda sits in my object, you will experience me as objective. You'll therefore experience me as being emotional rather than rational. You'll experience me as being judgmental rather than open-minded, etc., etc. So it suggests the first thing that this distinction between the intent to take and the intent to give, or the intent to get and the intent to give, translates into is a kind of a kindness. It means fundamentally immature people are kind of selfish with how they deal with the world, whereas mature people are fundamentally generous with how they deal with the world. There's a further implication to this, though, that we often also consider the difference between immature people and mature people as an issue of accountability. Immature people dodge accountability. They will blame when things go wrong. they'll say it's not me, it's somebody else, which is also why we consider immature people to be fundamentally irresponsible and mature people to be responsible. I mean, clearly, when you consider somebody to be irresponsible, what you're saying is that I believe that when that person is faced with the difference between doing what's in their own interests and doing what is right, they'll act in their own interests. You can't trust them. They're irresponsible. They won't live up to their accountability. They'll blame the other. Whereas if you consider a person to be responsible, you're saying exactly the opposite. You're saying, I believe that this person can take a bullet for what is right. When they're faced with the difference between what's in their own interest and what's the right thing to do, they will make the sacrifice. They'll act on the basis of what's right, even if it's going to harm their own interests, which is basically means that's why we just experience the difference between immature people and mature people, as immature people are fundamentally cowardly with how they deal with things, and mature people are fundamentally courageous, which means giving is basically about having the generosity or courage to give the situation that you're in its dues, to do what's required of you. And that capacity of an individual has an implication to how the individual operates in a team. So if we take the individual and nest the individual in a team, and we say, well, how do you account for the connectivity between members of the team? Then the first thing you need to bear in mind is the maturity of the individual, the degree to which the individual is on this maturation scale. And the further implication that has for what is found to be significant or insignificant. So clearly, each individual is on a journey, and being on that journey of being able to take to being able to give, they will incrementally move from operating as an individual to operating as a member of a team. And the effect of that on the team is that the team will operate less and less as less and less as a group of freestanding individuals, and more as members of a team, where the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts, because the connectivity between the members of the team is stronger. Now that suggests that as each individual matures as an individual, incrementally the individual acts less and less as an individual and more as a member of the team, and the group operates less and less as a group of freestanding individuals and more as a team, and therefore the connectivity between the individuals becomes more and more pronounced, more and more kind of connected. And increasingly, this group of freestanding individuals operates more like a whole and less like just a collection of parts. Now, what that means for the individual concerned is that it suggests that despite the fact that it seems that if you are subordinating your interest to the interest of the team, you kind of, if you like, you're sacrificing something. Actually, this is immensely empowering, because if we go back to our distinction between being here to get or being here to give, if I construct my engagement with somebody on the basis of what I want from them, let's say you and I are having a conversation, I see you've got a very nice watch and I want to get your watch. If I want to get your watch, your ability to withhold the watch gives you power over me, which basically makes me weak. When I deal with the other on the basis of what I want to get from the other's ability to withhold what I want makes me weak. Whereas if I shift my intent to what I can contribute, because I'm giving attention to what I have power over, what sits in my own hands, I become powerful. And there's a knock-on effect to the whole issue of harmony and harmony in a group. Because while I want your watch, your ability to withhold the watch makes you dangerous to me because you can manipulate me. But not only are you dangerous to me, but precisely because I'm trying to get something out of you, I'm dangerous to you. And if you are dangerous to me and I'm dangerous to you, we're going to have a conflict. Whereas if I shift my intent from what I'm trying to get from you to how I can be helpful to you, you can't withhold the watch anymore. I become free and safe from you. But precisely because I'm trying to be helpful to you, you're safe from me, I'm safe from you, you're safe from me. We have harmony, which basically means to say that the product of my intent as an individual is the harmony of the group, is my contribution to the harmony. It helps to provide the lubricant that connects people. And that harmony is fundamentally the product of the intent to give. And as we indicated before, the intent to give is not about being nice. It's about giving each situation its due. It's about acting consistently with the generosity or the courage that's operative in the situation that you're in. And what's very important about these three categories is that giving each situation its due is the root of the problem. Generosity, if you like, is the primary element, and courage is the secondary element. Because if you're trying to account for the intent to give, surely, kindness is the first principle, confrontation is the second. So in that sense, generosity is the primary element and courage is the secondary element. These are all things that you do in the outward. They're acts you conduct in the world. What isn't always apparent, though, is that giving each situation its due is based on another skill, an inward skill, which is really concerned with seeing things as they are. If you don't see the situation as it is not possible to give the situation its due. If you misappraise the situation, you will do the wrong thing. So seeing the things as they are is a precondition. It's an inner perceptual thing that enables you to give each situation its due. This thing of seeing things as they are and giving its situation its due, these are mutually enabling elements. I mean, if I misbehave, and I know I've misbehaved, let's say I've insulted somebody badly, or I've had a big argument with somebody, I walk into the next situation that I'm in with most of my attention still trapped in the previous engagement, which means because I misbehaved previously, I'm in this situation blind. I don't have all my attention available. I don't see the situation as it is. So seeing things as they are rather, and giving its situation as due, these are two mutually enabling elements. It's two hands that wash each other. If we say that giving each situation its due has these two elements, generosity and courage, then there has to be an inner equivalent to generosity and courage. In order to find out what that means, let's first examine what generosity means. Surely, if generosity means giving to give away, if I give you something, but it's kind of in the spirit of an investment, you know that in 2 weeks I'm going to come back for you and ask you for something else to reciprocate, you're not going to experience my behavior as generous. You'll only experience my behavior as generous when it is unconditional, when it's giving to give away. My ability to act unconditionally, my ability to be generous, is based on another completely different quality. It's based on gratitude. Because if I'm grateful, I know I've received in excess of my due. It is precisely the insight that I've received in excess of my due that makes it possible for me to give away. So my gratitude enables my generosity. Just like my gratitude enables my generosity, so too my generosity enables my gratitude. Because if I'm one of those people who only ever gives in the spirit of making an investment, it means that when somebody else gives to me, I can't recognize that they're giving to give away. I assume they're making an investment, which basically means to say I can't be grateful, which means it indicates that my gratitude enables my generosity, and my generosity enables my gratitude. The inner equivalent of courage is trust. When I trust, if I trust somebody, it's easy for me to take a risk with them. It's easy for me to do something courageous. But that doing something courageous, if you like, when I do something courageous, I know that person is trustworthy, which means I can trust them a bit more. So my trust enables my courage, and my courage enables my trust. There's an attribute to how this affects a team, because what that suggests is that when the individual in the team sees things as they are, the individual is grateful for their colleagues and they're willing to trust their colleagues, that spirit of affirmation produces a team with this real connectivity and loyalty. You produce the harmony of the team. So, when the individual sees things as they are grateful, they act in a generous way, they trust, they are courageous, and they affirm, and they help to contribute to the harmony of the team. And the essence of this is that there's a master key to this entire model, and the master key is the issue of gratitude. If I look at the past and I'm grateful for what I've received, it's easy for me to be generous. If I look at the past and I'm grateful for what I've received, when I look forward, it's easy for me to trust because I know things have gone well before. I know things will go well in the future, and it's easy for me to be courageous. That trust, that appreciativeness of the people around me, that spirit of affirmation, therefore contributes to the harmony of the team, which is why this issue of golden arrows is so important, because the whole issue of golden arrows underscores the significance of gratitude. When you present people with golden arrows, what you're actually doing is that you're affirming what there is to affirm. And by doing that, you're helping to cement the spirit of affirmation in the team, the spirit of trust in the team, and you help to strengthen, if you like, the connectivity between the members of the team, which suggests that the bedrock of a team is where people are there to set each other up to succeed, and that the members of the team are therefore the members of the team therefore unconditionally affirm each other. This suggests that the team members deliberately set out to find what they can affirm about each other. And Golden Arrows is a team process that's concerned with team members telling each other what they appreciate about each other.